Good late morning. I have the unfortunate position of being the last one before lunch, so I can already say right now that it's going to be longer than 20 minutes, so I'm sorry for that. I'll keep you from your lunch a little longer than expected, but okay, let's go. So thank you, Mateusz, for introducing the topic. I'm gonna start at the beginning. So I'm gonna first want to say something about how this presentation came to be. Okay. Right. So I first began thinking about the topic with these four bands. And I realized with these four bands that they mostly, their names are inspired by Tolkien. For those who do not know, Amon Amarth essentially is the Elvish name for the Mountain of Doom. Gorgoroth is an area in Mordor. Burzum is the Orcish word for darkness, and Karach Angren is also an area in Mordor. None of these bands, or mostly, these bands do not thematize Tolkien in any way outside of the name. And so that got me curious, like, why do they use Tolkien names if they're not going to talk about it, sing about it, thematize it in any other ways? So in fact, I later discovered that Amon Amarth and Gorgoroth both have one song apiece that actually does thematize Tolkien a little bit. Burzum and Karach Angren do not. So that was the initial thought. What is going on here? Then I started researching the topic and... No? Okay. Good. I started researching the topic, and it's sort of the questions got all over the place. So it's going to be a lot of maybe sometimes unrelated thoughts. So I came to define my presentation, my study, as a quantitatively driven, but like relatively small data, quantitatively, exploratory study. So I'm essentially like looking at what's out there in terms of metal and Tolkien. For this presentation, the two primary questions are, so when I look at the bands whose names are inspired by Tolkien, do they thematize Tolkien beyond the name? Perhaps in lyrics, in their logos, and so on. So that's one question. And perhaps the ratio of the bands that do thematize Tolkien beyond the name versus those that do not. The second question is whether the names or the band names that are derived from Tolkien sort of connote the metal subgenres that these bands belong to. I'm going to explain that further on. And lastly, when I was researching the topic, I realized that there is some real potential to actually look into ways in which these metal bands could be transgressing Tolkien in a way. So that's going to be the closing part of the presentation, where I'm going to offer some thoughts on like specific examples, concrete examples. So to begin, I just want to really briefly talk about where the study is in terms of theory. So I'm going to have this lovely Venn diagram. Yes. So of course it's metal studies. Of course it's also Tolkien studies. But for me, at least very importantly, it's also part of socio-onomastics. Now, to explain this term, onomastics generally is the study of names and naming conventions. Now, traditionally, scholars researching onomastics have been focused on two areas, predominantly anthroponomastics, which is the study of people's names, essentially, and toponomastics, which is the study of place names. They were also largely focused on the etymology of names, which is essentially boils down to the semantic content of the name. So for example, if you take the name Alfred, the semantic content, the etymology of that name is something like elf wisdom or elf counsel. Recently, though, the focus has also shifted to other interests. So, for example, naming conventions in other contexts, such as company names, names in astronomy, in popular culture, and so on. And also, importantly, the researchers have shifted their focus to the sociology of names, or socio-onomastics. An example could be the studying the increase or decrease in popularity of names related to like popular culture. So we can think about the increase of popularity of certain names connected to the Game of Thrones series. You know, people started naming their children Khaleesi and whatnot. And also historical context, for example. So the obvious one here is the decrease in popularity of the name Adolf after a certain historical period. These are just some of the works that deal with onomastics. Now, for this particular study, the important concepts, two important concepts, is the denotative and connotative meanings of names. And to give a particular example that's related to Tolkien, we've got two names from the Tolkien legendarium, Galadriel and Morgoth. Now, both of these have specific denotative meanings, which is essentially the semantic meaning again. Those meanings are, of course, rooted in Tolkien's artificially created language of Sindarin. Galadriel meaning something like Lady of Light, and Morgoth, dark enemy. But both these names, at least for people who are acquainted with Tolkien, also carry connotative meanings, so associative ideas, things that people would associate with these names. So for Galadriel, that would be light, perhaps goodness, something that's good, something that's I want to say pro-life, but that's a different connotation now. But against death, let's say. Also a being that's powerful, but that power is benign. And also a being that's really invested in a quest to fight evil. And I would suggest, or at least that was my idea, that this connotative meaning would also be transplanted into the particular genres that the bands who would choose the name Galadriel would be, or subgenres, sorry, would belong to, or would be categorized as, such as power metal, folk metal, epic metal. Morgoth, on the other hand, connotes darkness, evil, the destructive power, and essentially quest to destroy life. And again, I would suggest, or that was my idea, original idea, that that would also be translated into bands choosing this name, mostly belonging into subgenres that thematize evil, death, darkness, such as black metal, death metal, or deathcore. Right, so now going to the study proper. So I am mainly a linguist, and linguists love data. So I first decided to collect enough data to support my study, and I did that with thanks to Metal Archives, and I can never thank them enough. However, I should say at this point that the information on Metal Archives can sometimes be incomplete or incorrect. So that's something that we should bear in mind. So what I did was I chose several particular keywords, names from Tolkien, and I did a search, and then I collected all the bands that would use that keyword in their name. And that would essentially form the data. So here's an example of the search of the keyword Mordor, and as you can see, there's a lot of bands. It's the list. It goes on. It couldn't fit on a single screen. You would have to scroll down. I think there are like 27 bands that use Mordor in their name, so a lot of them. So these are the keywords that I eventually used. Essentially, I used 15 keywords for names that are associated with goodness, such as Aragorn, though interestingly that was often confused with Aragon, and even Metal Archives couldn't really, it was really confusing. So 15 names for goodness, and then 15 names for names that are associated with evilness or darkness. I also, to collect enough data, I set myself the criterion that I will use the keywords that have at least 5 bands listed with them. So, for example, you don't see Burzum here because there are not 5 bands named like that. I did have to sort of bend that criterion a little with the good names, because as you can, as you can see here, there's a real discrepancy between the number of good associated names, only 63 bands in total, versus the evil associated bands, for 147 in total. Right, by the way, that makes 210 bands in total in my data set. All right, so when I had the bands collected, I then categorized them in 2 ways. First, I looked at the dominant subgenre of the bands and categorized them accordingly. And then I also categorized the ways in which the bands engage with Tolkien themes. So, for example, do they also, have explicitly Tolkien-related lyrics or song titles and so on? Finally, of course, then I zoomed in a little and thought about some possible Tolkien transgressions. So, for those who know me well, know that I like tables. So this is one such table. Right. So in this column, if you can see it, right here. So here is the names that are associated with evil, with the idea of evil, darkness. The column next to it, here, is the good guys, the good names. So that's the columns. Now I also sort of divided the subgenres of metal into, and this was very subjective, but into what I would associate the subgenres, whether they are again thematized darkness, evilness, or negative emotions, versus the subgenres that connote positive emotions, goodness, light, and so on. So that's the result. There are 3 subgenres that I just couldn't really place anywhere. So those are neutral, and then there are the evil subgenres and the good subgenres. And so when you look at that, you see that essentially the evil subgenres predominate. And that's not just because the evil names are so frequent, so abundant. Because when you look at that, there are 22 bands belonging into power metal, gothic metal, folk metal, and so on, that are in total. And there are 16 bands in that category that are named after positive characters. On the other hand, when you look at the evil or dark subgenres, there are 36 bands that are named after good characters. So it's not just about the names themselves, but just gives you an idea that for some reason, Tolkien themes are predominant in the subgenres like black metal, death metal, doom metal, and so on. Could be one question as to why is that. I don't have the answer to that, but it's a question. And you can also see that black metal, out of all the subgenres, is massively dominant, right? Okay. So moving on to the ways in which the bands can engage with Tolkien. There's finally going to be some more concrete examples, but first a table again. So essentially, I created these 6 categories. The first is the band name. Obviously, due to the nature of the study, all the bands are engaged with Tolkien on the level of the band name. So 210 bands have the band name inspired by Tolkien. Then, if the band had at least one song titled explicitly inspired by Tolkien, 54 bands in total. Then it goes on to the album title. So if at least one album is titled explicitly following Tolkien. And then I also look at the art, the album covers, and the band logos. 28 bands have album covers inspired by Tolkien. There's an explicit Tolkien theme in it. And then 19 bands have logos that are obviously inspired by Tolkien. And finally, 16 bands that I could find that have lyrics explicitly linked to Tolkien. Though again, this is especially problematic with the lyrics. What I said earlier about metal archives, very often with the smaller bands, you don't have lyrics listed there. So the actual numbers could be different. All right, so examples. So these are the band logos. As you can see, there's a lot of black and white, so again, the dominance of black metal. But there is this lovely Croatian heavy metal band called Sauron, who, according to Metal Archives, their lyrical themes is nightlife, women, and whatnot. So the idea of why they chose the name, and they sing about nightlife is interesting. But they do at least seem to have their logo inspired by Tolkien, where the O in the name is in the shape of a ring, so suggesting Sauron's one ring that rules them all. To the right, you can see the band logo of one band called Nazgul, because Nazgul is also very popular for some reason. The logo says the name Nazgul, and it's in Tengwar, which is one of the scripts invented by Tolkien for his Middle-earth fantasy world. To the left of Sauron, we've got the band Angmar, which features in its logo 2 flails that are very obviously inspired, taken from Peter Jackson's films. This is the flails that is used in the films by the Witch King of Angmar. Below that is a band, Barad-dûr. In the middle of that logo, you can see the tower Barad-dûr again, taken from Peter Jackson's films. Then we've got the band Isengard. This is a bit more complex. This band, Isengard is also very popular. This band specifically is a solo project of none other than Fenris from Dark Throne. What I found is that the logo, the figure in the logo, is taken from some Tolkien-related D&D game or something like that. Can't remember the specifics. And finally, one of perhaps my favorite one, because it's very explicit, the band Servant of Morgoth, where you can essentially see a depiction of Morgoth here with his signature 3 silmarils set in his crown. So again, very explicitly related to Tolkien. Now, I also have some album cover examples, but I'm not really going to go through them because we don't have the time, I think, and there's still some interesting stuff remaining. There were 3 bands in total that sort of engaged with Tolkien on all the levels that I mentioned. So lyrically, album titles, and so on. I'm going to give you one example, again, time. So this one is one of my favorites. It's Skald of Morgoth. It's a black metal band from Poland. And it has song titles that are clearly related to the Morgoth persona, such as The Birth of Glaurung, Ancient Depths of Utumno, or the song Heil Morgoth. Also, their one and only album is titled The Siege of Angmant, which again is the fortress of Morgoth. In terms of the logo, this is a bit more, it's not that clear, but I would suggest that the off, or the O in the off, is essentially depicting or showing the eye of Sauron. And in terms of the album cover, this is a bit cheating, but essentially the album cover is identical to the band logo, so it's still there. And finally, the lyrics, and this one is really interesting. It's the lyrics to their song Heil Morgoth, and there's a lot of things to unpack. The first thing to note is in the blue, it says, the great music, Melkor had been the one who played his own melody against the Iluvatar's will. So this is a clear reference to the beginning of the Silmarillion, the Song of Ainur, which created the world. But it also already gives you a hint into the Christian theme in Tolkien, which, Melkor here is clearly supposed to represent Lucifer, as the angel who rebelled against God and worked against God in every possible way. And this is perhaps extended, and Morgoth can in a way be seen as a cover for satanic messages, especially here with the line in green, the master of left-hand path. So there's extension in that direction as well. I also have these 2 words in orange, but that's more linguistic. Essentially, it says Ainurs, Valars, plural, even though Ainur and Valar is already in the Sindarin tongue a plural of the words Ainu and Vala. So it's just more linguistic interest. But the extension to Satanism, to Lucifer, is very interesting to me, and something that perhaps could be explored further with these bands. Okay, I'm gonna skip over these. And just really briefly, I know that I'm already over time, but at least then you'll appreciate lunch a bit more. All right, so some ideas of transgressions of Tolkien. And I'm gonna start with the most potentially explosive, not here, but in the general public, is Tolkien themes used by NS black metal bands. In my data set, I managed to locate 4 bands that are NS black metal and have some Tolkien related imagery or band names, also lyrics and so on. One of them is Morgoth from Croatia. You can see their logo here, complete with the swastika and the German eagle. And also they've got an album, actually a demo, I think, No, it's a split. It's a split with another band. It's called Right Wing Funeral, and you can see the cover here, which actually depicts a funeral of a Nazi official. I didn't manage which one, but didn't manage to identify which one. But you can see it there. Then my favorite here, Nazgul SS, which is really like in the name. And they, the picture, it's from, it's a single man project. He is from Guatemala, and you can see in the picture here, you know, employing the double cellular runes, standing for the SS paramilitary group, essentially. And then here you've got Pest of Isengard. This one, again, you've got, it's all these pictures are from Metal Archive. So you can see here, you've got the CD, again, with the German eagle, but also the Celtic Cross, that is nowadays used by neo-Nazi, far-right, white supremacist groups as their symbol. And finally, one band, Baradur from Germany. This is a bit less obvious or less explicit, but this is a cover of one of their albums. The album title is Gold oder Blut. So you get that idea of Germanic blood in there. But also, if you can see it, the band members, especially here, depicted wearing military hoods, so very aggressive posture in there. Now the question is, are these bands actually transgressing Tolkien? Because Tolkien and racism is a topic that's been debated over a lot. And when I was researching my topic, I came across this scholar from Australia, Helen Young, and these are quotes from an interview or conversation with her published by David Perry in Pacific Standard. And there's, I'm not going to really read them, you can read them yourselves, but the idea there is essentially, yes, Tolkien was explicitly against Hitler and was very much frustrated and shocked by the rampant anti-Semitism. But structurally, his works can be viewed and interpreted as racist. So what's the idea here? Are these bands then actually transgressing Tolkien, or are they somehow in line with Tolkien and the ideas in Tolkien's work? So again, something that can be thought of in the future. Now, I do also have some parody bands that transgress Tolkien in a parodic way, but I think we don't have the time for that. So I'm just going to skip over them, which is a shame, but maybe we can, because if you're interested, we can go back to them all in the discussion section. So, conclusions and outlook. So the original assumption regarding the band names and the relation to the subgenres was essentially not confirmed, because generally most of the bands were in the darker subgenres, and it was regardless of whether their names were based on like positive good characters or negative bad characters. Overall, the black metal was the most dominant subgenre involved, and the question could be again, why? So those were, I guess, the conclusive conclusions, and there's a lot of questions. And I think my main maybe conclusion for myself is that it sort of surprised me how potentially rich of an area of research this could be in the future, perhaps. One way in which we could go is to focus more qualitatively, essentially interviewing the bands, asking them why they think perhaps Tolkien and metal is a good match. I actually attempted a little qualitative research by sending emails to Vark Vikernes, Shagrat, Karach Angren, Gorgoroth, and Amon Amarth, and I got 0 replies, so that was not successful. Right, so these are the list of references and the pictures, pictures that I used in the presentation. So thank you very much.